Now, I believe that you as a grown-ass humanoid have the right to do whatever the hell you want to do with your own body. Not a body that is forming inside of you, but your own body. You can do what you want as an adult with you, but what you cannot do is start messing with other people, or more specifically, with the kids. You can't come to my kids with that nonsense, and you can't come to your kids with that nonsense. This should be considered as a form of child abuse. I'm not going to be apologetic about that point right there. I'm not going to buy into this nonsense, this gender binary sort of delusion that used to be considered a mental illness that we have now been bullied and forced into buying into. So with that being said, let's get into a story that is not the usual story, but it is a reality that is taking place, I think, more times than not, which is, well, it's the regret of this decision. When you're transformed and now you want to untransform because it's a delusion. But let's get into it. Make sure to get yourself a little H to the is O, and let's get into it.
Howdy there, I'm Noah. I'm a detransitioned male. I was on estrogen for 4.5 years. I started transitioning at 18, and then I detransitioned about 6 months ago. Today, I want to talk about transition regret. So, some people detransition and they don't actually regret transitioning in the first place. They see it as like part of their journey. Maybe they like the lingering effects of exogenous hormones. That's not me.
Some people detransition, but they don't regret transitioning. That's an oxymoron. You don't change something that you believed was going to better your life because it bettered your life. You change it because it made your life worse. For example, I once transitioned into veganism, right? For 4 years, when I was around 19 to around 23, I was a vegan. Then I detransitioned out of veganism because it was destroying my life. I regretted veganism. Now I could sit here and say, well, it was part of the journey. A journey of becoming ill, a journey of being pre-diabetic, a journey of completely destroying my immune system. That was a hell of a journey, but it still ruined my life. So I just had to make that point. Continue.
Okay, I view transitioning as the single worst mistake I've made in my life. It had immediate negative consequences with my family because they could just not wrap their head around my desire to transition. I wanted them to use this new name and pronouns pretty immediately. They did not want to do that because they did not want to affirm this identity that, they were hoping I would come to my senses. I did not. I ignored them.
Those are good parents. That's called protecting your child from the evils that are constantly being pushed towards them. So good for you, mom and dad.
But it drove this huge wedge between us, and that was really hard for me because I was close to my parents. I'm still close to my parents. I went into my freshman year of college during COVID, and this was all the first year of my transition. And I had a really hard time making connections on campus or with anyone just because I was a very non-passing trans woman, and honestly, I was never very good at cohering to gendered expectations of women. So I don't know. I don't think people took me very seriously outside of these very trans affirming social groups. Also, having a trans identity, constantly worrying about passing, about being misgendered, that kind of thing, it made me incredibly neurotic, and I'm already
This is good, folks. This is the first time I'm watching this, so we're in this together. I think that's a point that is almost never touched upon, which is the neuroses that comes from constantly having to keep the world around you, in congruence or in alignment with your own delusion. And I believe that's why they ended up creating all these movements and bullying everybody else into believing their own delusion, because how else are you going to, kind of silence that voice in your head? Everybody is going to call you what they believe that you are. Right? Everybody, including the people in the very same circles, until you obviously say something other than that. And, now you have to configure all of these things, but you're always in your own head. Am I going to be misgendered? Am I going to be misgendered? Do they know what I am? Do they know what I am? You're having to put on a character. And when I look at this guy right here, He may have the baby face situation going on. He's a younger guy. He's talking about 18. He transitioned, quote unquote. But I do get bro energy. He seems like a bro. He seems more like a dude. Yes, there are some men who are more feminine leaning, right? Back in the day, we used to have like tomboys, tom girls, or at least mostly tomboys with the girls, more feminine men or feminine boys. It didn't mean that you were in the wrong body. It just simply meant that you had attributes and characteristics that were maybe different. That was as deep as it got. But now it's like at this place where you're constantly, am I doing it? Is everybody else recognizing? Are they seeing it? Are they seeing it? Are they seeing it? And just imagine you got, a bit of the tism. You're on the spectrum, or you got different mental illnesses that are playing in the background. It's a disaster. So shame on every single one of these so-called doctors that are continuing to push this very same delusion as opposed to looking to treat it.
Like social groups. Also, like having a trans identity, constantly worrying about passing, about being misgendered, that kind of thing. It made me like incredibly neurotic, and I'm already like a neurotic person. So yeah, this is not even to mention like the physical effects. If it was just like I'd gone socially transitioned, I would feel like a lot better about it. But no, I had facial feminization surgery, so I do miss like my like strong brow bone. I don't like looking a little more androgynous like I do now. But the biggest negative effects have been the lingering effects of estrogen. I have some gynecomastia, which is, really not like too bad, as you can see. Like my thighs are a little bit thicker than the average guys. But the annoying stuff is like below the waist. You can Google the effects of estrogen on the male body if you'd like to. I'll be vague. Things like still work after being off estrogen. I have normal T levels, but my libido's kind of low. Function is like 50% of what it was pre-transition, and my fertility is up in the air, which sucks, but it is what it is. When I was identifying as a woman, like estrogen actually did like affirm my identity and made me feel good, but now that I'm living as a man again and not really identifying as one, but viewing myself as a man.
Like, just think about this, folks. If you have to do all of these, extreme, so you have to take on these extreme measures, or you have to create these concoctions of sort, potions per se, in order to validate the delusion, then wouldn't that confirm to you that it's a delusion, that it's not true, right? The reason why a XY chromosome born just a male can easily say I'm a male is because the working parts are all there. You know what I'm saying? This is not a conversation about, somebody born with both parts or whatever it is, which is extremely rare. We're talking about just boys and girls who are being told you are the opposite gender or the opposite quote unquote sex. Somebody tried to argue that with me today on X. I'm like, same thing. It's the exact same thing. There are two of each. Okay, maybe they're different. Sex and gender are different. Two genders, two sexes. Simple. We solved it. Two. But when you have to create an entire world, this elaborate thing in order to confirm, it shows you that it's not based in reality. Reality is always knocking at the door. And when we're going in opposition to it, it might be more silenced, but it's still there. It's like gravity. Gravity is always going to be reality. It's always knocking at the door. And you find out the moment you try to, jump off a 2-story or something like that. The moment you fall from a high scaffolding, you remember, oh yeah, reality says gravity is real. So when you're doing all these things, your body is rejecting, and that goes for a lot of medications. That goes for a lot of these synthetics, a lot of these things that we use in order to take care of symptoms as opposed to getting to the root cause. A lot of them have the very same detrimental effects, but this one is more sadistic because there's an agenda behind it, an affirmation of this. Instead of getting to the root of it and healing and helping these kids mentally, we're allowing them to go down this rabbit hole. And I mean, damn, he got his, Sigma jawline going.
It horrifies me a little bit that I put myself through chemical castration. But again, it is what it is. So yeah, I don't consider my transition to be part of some like wonderful journey. I feel physically and mentally stunted. I feel like a tree that grew in the wrong direction for 4.5 years. Now I have to break off the branch and like restart. I feel diminished, and yeah, I'm angry at myself that I bought into a belief system that taught me I could become a woman if I wanted to. And for me, rejecting that belief system has been an important step in healing. Thank you.
You were failed. Let me repeat one more time. You were failed. It's as simple as that. You were failed by, and again, I can't point necessarily just to the folks because it seems that they were against this, but you were failed by the greater society. At 18 years old, you made that decision, which means all the years before you're already being primed, you're already being programmed, conditioned to believe this. So yeah, I truly hope the best for him. Thank God he made the decision so early on, but there's a lot of folk stories which I hear on a pretty frequent basis where it's like a 40, 50, 60-year-old, 70-year-old. I regret, ever have been done this, etc. I mean, one of the biggest advocates, I believe he's or she's, I think it's a male that became quote unquote a woman and then detransitioned, talks about how it was the greatest regret at now 70 years old. 70. So yeah. I'm thankful that we have these sorts of messages, but again, it's going to be an effort of all of us to continue to tell the damn truth. That's it. Don't let people fall into their delusions. It's going to help them. Appreciate you guys for tuning in. Now, if you'd like to stay around, make sure to click that little subscribe button down there, or you can show some love by going to the description below and clicking on the button titled Buy Me a Coffee. Leave a little something there, or click on the Cash App. Leave a little something here. Till the next time, peace.
I fell in love with the sunshine. I fell in love with the light. I fell in love with the full moon. I fell in love with the night. But I can see the light again. I can see the light. You can see the life in him illuminate the night. I know the time is taking a 365, that's a full rotation. I see you looking up, you know them constellations. Constantly gazing like house of praises, you get to praising.